Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing Marcus's wrap-up where he talks about the 12 books that he ended up reading in the month of July. So as you guys know, I chose some of the books that Marcus was going to be reading last month. He actually exceeded that and read more than I chose for him, so like, way to go, that's awesome. But today, I'm going to be hearing for the first time how he feels about the books that I chose and those additional ones that he added onto it. And not all of the books that I chose for him he used, like he swapped some out, but that was okay. Like I said that in my TBR video for him that like, I'm going to choose a certain amount of books and then you can choose out of these ones which ones you want to do. So yeah, but I'm just excited because I want to know what he thinks because I've been asking him all month. I've been like, so how'd you feel about that book? How'd you feel? And he hasn't been able to even fill out his Goodreads page because he doesn't want me to know until now. So this is the moment I've been waiting for. I get to finally find out. So let's get into his wrap up. So we have his whole pile of books over here on a chair and I'm just looking at them now and I'm kind of like trying to guess which one he liked the most and which one he liked the least. And I'm thinking, because I know, oh, this is hard. I feel like you had a really like good mood / attitude after you read Keeper of the Lost Cities. But you also really liked Queen of Blood, I think. I'm just going to go with a safe one here and say his favorite was Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. That's my guess for the top one. You're like trying not to smile because you want to give it away. And his least favorite would probably be Limited Wish by Mark Lawrence. That's my guess. Alright, so we're going to break it down. He's going to go one by one.
So Release is the first book by Patrick Ness that I chose to read this month. I chose this one first because I thought it would be the one that I would like the least out of all the books. So I just kind of wanted to get it out of the way.
Wait, do you want me to guess what you rated it before you say?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to predict that you rated this book a 3 out of 5. That's my guess.
I also, so for my ratings, I have some that are like 3.5, like 0.5s or like 0.25s or 0.75s.
Oh, you went with 0.25 and 7.5?
Yeah.
Oh,
so if
he's classy.
Just if you want to change your ratings, just so you know.
No, I'm going to stick with it. 3. I'm giving it a 3.
Okay. So, do I do synopsis? What do I do? How do I do this? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, so Marcus has not done a wrap-up before. Well, I mean, you were in one video, like, in the new year, where you talked about your favorite books. But that was, like, the only really, like, wrap-up style video you were in.
Oh, yeah, that's, like, my favorite books of the year.
So basically, you just, like, well, obviously, you say the rating you gave the book, and then you say what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, without trying to spoil anything, which is the struggle I go through every time I do a reading wrap-up.
So do I have to hold up the book?
I can hold it if you want. Gives me something to do.
No, I need something to do because otherwise it'll be moving my hands.
Sounds good.
So I ended up giving this a 3 stars.
Yes!
And it ended up being my least favorite of the month.
No!
So this is a story about, oh god, I don't even know anybody's names in any of these.
I can never remember names when it comes to wrap-ups. I'm just like, that guy, yeah, what's his name? Do you remember anything about the book?
Yeah, I remember it being shit. I am so uncomfortable.
Did you like anything about the book?
I have to give a synopsis. I'm trying to think of how to give the synopsis.
Okay.
Right. So this is a story about Adam. He's trying to figure out where he is in life with his new boyfriend Linus and his ex Enzo. And there's also like a second storyline going on this with the girl who's a spirit and also like the queen of spirits. So I gave this 3 stars because I kind of liked Adam's story, thought it was interesting, but the spirit story I found didn't really flow well with his story. It was almost like I was reading 2 different books at the same time. And I also thought it was really weird, like there's a part where he talks about how he kind of turns adults into pedophiles, which is really weird. And do you not remember that?
I don't remember that part, no.
So he just, like, he goes on rant and explain, like, different parts of his life where he's met adults and they've like flashed him, or they've like gave him like weird looks, or like squeezed his butt or slapped his butt. So I just thought that was really weird and kind of unnecessary for the plot.
Yeah, that's not even ringing a bell for me. I can't remember that.
I will say though that the book was really easy to read. The font's pretty big and there's a lot of spaces. So even though it wasn't my favorite of the month, I did read it within like 2 days. And I did like the writing style. So
yeah, it's kind of written with like the flowery writing style where it's like lighter.
It's light. It's light and fluffy. And
although there are some parts that are like kind of hard hitting, but they're not like long.
Hard hitting. Like maybe the spirit. Yeah, so I guess like the spirit story is a little like darker, definitely darker than Adam's story.
I remember that part. Yeah.
I just thought it was so weird that he decided to put these two storylines together. Like I found they didn't really mesh well, and you could have totally done without the spirit story, and then the title release still would have worked perfectly fine without it. So I think that just didn't really mesh too well for me. But I did appreciate there was a little bit of like a fantasy element in this book, so I definitely see why you chose this for me.
Okay.
All right.
So that was book 1. So next up we have Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. This is another one that I chose. I feel like he really liked this one because I remember when he was reading it, he was very excited at different parts. So I'm going to say you gave this one a 4 out of 5. Or you've been thrown in those like 0.25. 4.25, we'll say.
I'm going to drop the book. Okay.
We'll see.
All right. So I gave this rating a 4.25.
Yes! 2 for 2! Also, if you guys hear any weird like scuffling noises, our cat's having a weird fit on the floor where he's just attacking the carpet for no reason. This is normal. Anybody that's a cat owner will understand.
So this book is about Sophie, who is able to read minds, and she's not sure why. And then one day on like a school trip, she meets someone named Fitz, who's also able to read minds. And then from there on, the story just kind of goes into like a different direction. It's really fun. I had high expectations from this just because I knew there was a magical school setting in it. And I really enjoyed it. It's middle grade, so it's not necessarily for my age group, obviously. But I really liked it. It was action-packed. It was a lot of fun. There was never really any dull moments. I will say there was a spot where like there's a lot of darker, like heavy themes that go on in this book. And there's one character who is a little younger who kind of was really selfish and was acting childish during it, which was really annoying. But again, it is middle grade, so I understand. So yeah, so there's a little, there's heavier topics in here than I thought there would be on like family and death that I wasn't really expecting, but it really flowed well with the story. And other than that one character, I think for the most part, most of them were pretty mature for their age. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be continuing on with this series. Really enjoy it.
I heard a lot about this series too. Like, I don't know much about it myself, but like, I've seen it a lot on BookTube, and I've seen other people talking about this series and the different books. So, it sounds like a good one from what I've heard.
It's really, as well, it's also, I guess because it's middle grade and it's so action-packed, it's really quick read. Like, I read this in 2 days, I think, as well.
I need to read more middle grade, because apparently there's a lot of great middle grade books out there. I just have not been picking them up. So, the third book we have is Volume 2 of the Recursion Revelations. It's hard to say. It's called Rise of Empire, and I'm going to guess that you gave this one a 4 right on the dot. That's what I'm going to say.
So yeah, I gave this a 4 right on the dot.
3 for 3. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. So, so this is the third and fourth book in the, I'm not quite sure how to say it exactly, but I'm even gonna try. Recursion Revelations. So for the first bind up, I gave it a 3.5. That's Theft of Swords.
Look who showed up. Mr. Uno came for a visit. Uno, let's see what Marcus has to say about these books.
Yeah, so actually later in the month, I also read Heir of Novron, which is the 5th and 6th book in the series. So I'm just gonna kind of talk about them all at the same time because my pros and cons kind of all intertwine for the whole entire series. Wait, before I give a rating for this, what do you...
Oh yeah. Show me the cover.
You're rating by covers?
Maybe. I'm gonna say... Oh, now he's attacking my sweater, so we're gonna put him down. I'm gonna say you gave that one 3.75.
So you're wrong.
Oh, dang it. I knew it wouldn't last the whole time.
So I actually gave this one a 4.5.
Oh.
So the first one, Theft of Swords, I gave 3.5. This one's 4 and this one's 4.5. So yeah, so the series is about Royce and Hadrian, who are kind of like hired thieves or mercenaries, I guess. And in the first book, they get hired to steal a sword, and then things kind of go wrong from there, and then that was just their lives since then. So the series is really good for, I think, characterization, especially like the dynamics between the different characters. Where I think the series is really kind of lacking is with not necessarily the plot, but with foreshadowing maybe. Everything's just very predictable in the entire series. So I'm not sure if the author's just really heavy-handed with his plot details, because sometimes you can tell things that are going to happen like multiple books ahead before they actually happen.
Yeah, that's always a bummer too, because then it's like there's no surprise.
Yeah, so I found that throughout the entire series. Even in the last book, but by the time you got to the last book, everything was so intertwined that it was satisfying, even though you already knew it was going to happen or suspected it was going to happen.
Right.
I think what the author does really well too is everything is important in this. So characters from the first book and what they did in the first book, you'll see like consequences or actions that happen in the final book because of that. Or characters that were kind of minor character in the first one or side characters are actually kind of main characters. I also liked consequences in this stayed throughout the entire series. So sometimes bad things happen to characters, and instead of just kind of glossing over it and it's never mentioned again, characters actually become like traumatized, or they learn from their lessons from it, which I find you don't really tend to see that in fantasy too much. Like they just kind of gloss them over and just kind of go with the plot, and then it's kind of forgot about. So I really enjoyed that. So yeah, so I enjoyed these two books. So I gave this one 4 stars and this one 4.5 stars.
Okay, cool. Well, I didn't get that rating right, but it was bound to happen. So, okay, moving on to The Queen of Blood. Now this one I know he really enjoyed. He read it very fast, and I feel like you gave this one a 4.5 is my guess.
So yeah, so I gave this one a 4.5.
Yes. I'm doing really well with these.
So I'm not sure. So before going into this, I had like ridiculous expectations. I thought it was gonna be a 5-star. I thought it was gonna be a new favorite. I knew it was a little darker toned. I knew there was like kind of a magical school and some elemental magic going on into it. But this book was quite different than what I was expecting. So there was the magical school, and there was magical, like, elemental magic in it, but it had to do with spirits. So it's set in a world where there's these spirits that are just really everywhere. You have wood spirits, fire spirits, all that.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And these spirits hate humanity, so they try to kill everybody.
Doesn't sound fun.
So in this world, some women are born with the ability to kind of control these spirits. But it's very limited power, and then one woman is chosen, and she becomes kind of the queen. And then the queen is able to kind of control all the spirits so that they don't murder everybody.
Gotcha.
So so it starts off with the main character having her village attacked, and then figuring out that she's able to control spirits. So she goes to the school to train to become potential future queen. So yeah, so this book was quite different. What I thought was refreshing about this was that typically, like when you read a fantasy with someone who has powers, they're kind of the best, or they're, I don't know, unique, and they're just have this untapped potential, and they learn quicker than everybody, and they're able to do things nobody else is able to do. But this is not that at all. Like, the main character is probably one of the worst. So she really has to try to learn to hone her magic, and she has to use her magic in kind of clever ways, in ways that nobody else would think of doing it, just to kind of do the same thing that everybody else does. It is also quite dark. There's a couple deaths in here that I wasn't expecting, which is really fun.
Which is really fun.
Yeah, because I didn't really know where the plot was going to go, and it definitely went to a different way than I was expecting. So yeah, so in this book, there's also different perspectives. So there's also, set in this world, there's, I forget the exact term for it, maybe warders, but they're warriors who go along people who are training to become the next queen, and they basically just kind of protect them. So one of the queen's kind of ex-warder is one of the perspectives, and then the queen, the current queen, is also a perspective in this. So that was a lot of fun, and seeing the different point of views and how their different lifestyles are. So yes, I really enjoyed this. 4.5 stars.
Yeah. The darker the book is, the higher up it's on Marcus's scale. I've learned that. Okay, next up we have The Demon King, which many of you know I just read this book and really enjoyed it. Marcus has already read this before, so this was a reread for him. But he did not like it the first time he read it. And then, wait, didn't you read it 3 times now?
Yeah, so this is my third reread of it. Yeah. Or second reread, I guess. So I read it the first time, didn't like it, and then a year later, I didn't know why I didn't like it, so I reread it, and then I liked it. So then I reread it again this month.
Yeah, I'm going to say you gave it a 4.25.
So I don't know, it's kind of hard to rate this because it's the third time I've read it.
Yeah.
So I gave it 4.5 stars.
Okay. So it goes higher up.
Yeah. So obviously I knew what was going to happen. It's been, I don't know, like, it's been years since I've read this, so there was some things that I kind of forgot about, but as I was reading, I was starting to remember what happened. I don't know, it's just a fun series. It's I think one of my favorite YA fantasies. So yeah, it's the story of, or you can do this one.
Okay. I mean, I just read this one. So it's the story of Han Alistair, and he's kind of like a thief lord. I not really like, he's like the leader of like a ragtag group of thieves. And then there's also Raisa, and she's a princess, but she's more of a princess that like wants to get out there and do things and be like out and active rather than like back humble like in the castle just doing what she's told. She doesn't really want to do that. So it's the story of those two, and they like, it's kind of how they come to meet and interact. They both have very interesting storylines, and there's a lot of world building in this book that is fantastic. I really enjoyed that because it's like there's been so much setup in this book for the rest of the series. And I remember when I put the book down, I was like, I want to pick up the next one really bad. Like, I want to just keep reading and find out what happens in this world. But like, I just think it was a really well done book. And
you're giving a wrap up.
Yeah. I'm wrapping the book up now, which I've already done. So what did you think, Marcus?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting because they did have such different storylines, with her being a princess and kind of going to like balls, and her, I guess, more political intrigue with her. Yeah, so I enjoyed this. I enjoyed the different points of views between the two characters. With Han, I just like that type of character where he's kind of like a street urchin, like like street lord. Yeah, so I just like the very different plot lines of those two characters. And when they did meet, that's really when the story really started to pick up, and it's just a really fun series. You also have quite a bit of side characters, which I think are pretty fleshed out.
Yeah, I like some of the side characters.
And now, like, I know where the storyline's going with some of those characters too, so that's a lot of fun kind of seeing, I guess, everybody's origins coming back.
Have you finished the whole series?
Yeah, so I've already read
everything that happens.
Yeah, I've already completed this entire series. I just wanted to reread this series because so this is the Seven Realm series, and then there's the Shattered Realm series that's also set in this world after all this. So I want to reread this before getting back into that. So,
Right, that's fair.
yeah,
Okay.
that's it. That's all. I don't know.
On to the next book. So the next book is Lifelike by Jay Kristoff, and he just really likes Jay Kristoff. So I feel like this is going to be a high rating. My guess is, see, like, I didn't rate anything high. I don't know. You give like 5 stars very sparingly. 4.75 is what I'm going to guess for this book.
So I gave this 4 stars.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so this may have been my fault completely, but I did not read the description of what this was about at all. So going into it, I don't know, I guess I invented this storyline of what it would be, and as I was reading it, it was very different, so it was kind of jarring to get into the story. So I say it took about probably 100 pages for me to actually like go into the storyline and start to get into it. So this is set kind of in like a dystopian junkyard type world. And the main character is Eve, who is a cyborg after an accident that happened to her a couple years ago. And then she had to get one of her eyes, I believe left eye, like a prosthetic optic robotic eye. And then she also has some chips at the back of her head where she has some memory implants, just because she has her memory's a little fishy on that time. And then her and her friend Lemon Fresh.
That's a fun name for a character. But it's also Jay Kristoff, so that makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah. So her and her friend Lemon Fresh go to the landing of the ship where it crashed to get the good junk before everybody else does. And there they find a robot that looks human, which are called lifelikes in this world. And it's just kind of the story from there what goes on, and then she starts to remember things that kind of don't really make sense to her, and maybe she's not who she thinks she is. And then also set in this world are humans who have the ability, they're called deviates, and they just have weird abilities.
That's cool.
And then so she finds out at the start of the book that she's one of these. So people are also trying to hunt her down because of that.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, so this book, like I said, it took me a bit to actually get into it. I do think that a lot of the twists in here were predictable. But in typical Jay Kristoff style, there's so many twists that by the end of it, there's twists that you didn't see coming at all. So yeah, I would say that for most of the book, this was probably a 3.5 for me. It is a really weird styled world because there's characters that are kind of like seem like they'd be set in westerns, but then it's like a junkyard world, and then there's cyborgs, which is kind of like futuristic.
So it sounds fun to me.
Yeah, you'd probably really like this.
I think I would like that.
So yeah, so for most of the book it was because it was kind of predictable 3.5, but then it ended, and the way it ended got me really excited for the next book. So that's where it really jumped off half star to 4 stars.
All right, so we're on to the next one. So this is the Dragon Reborn, and this was from the Wheel of Time series. Is that it? Oh god. Okay. I was like, please tell me I'm saying the right series. Yeah, so all these books are super big and super daunting to me. Marcus loves them. I don't know what you gave this one though. It's hard for me to like pinpoint what you rated it. I'm gonna say you gave it a 3.75. So like close to a 4, but just didn't quite make it.
I actually have to double check because it's been so long.
Cross my fingers here that I'm right.
So I gave this a 4 stars.
Ah, I was so close. Damn.
So yeah, so this is the 3rd book in the Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I always have such a hard time picking up these books because they always take me way longer than I think. So it's kind of hard to describe what goes on in the series because it's such a huge world and every book really expands on the world, and it is the 3rd book in a series. Mm-hmm. But it's set in a world where the men and women both have magic, or some men and women have magic, but their magic comes from like a pool, and the men half of the pool is corrupted by like the dark one. So every time men use magic in this world, they slowly become crazy. But there's
that sucks.
So yeah, so like the women who have magic,
they're fine.
They're fine, but they try to either kill the men before they become crazy and dangerous.
Well, yeah, obviously, you just gotta kill them. Like, makes sense.
But it's set in a world where, like the evil dark one, he there's a prophecy saying that only a man is going to be able to defeat him, a man who's able to have magic. So it's kind of like there's a fine line between killing off all the men who have magic or like training them to the good side to defeat the evil one. Anyways, so in the first book, they're called Asadai. Oh God, I don't know.
I don't know. I've never read this. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, they're made up words.
Well, then how am I supposed to know? Why are you looking at me?
Yeah, so in the first book, so one of these like women who's able to have control magic. So her and her warrior partner kind of go to this village, and they find 3 boys there, and one of the boys is suspected to be the chosen one, and have the ability to channel magic. And then there's also 2 of their female friends that come along with the journey as well. So this is the 3rd book in the series. So yeah, so I can't really say too much that happens in it. I will say though that it's interesting because every book I have like a different favorite character. So in the first one, Perrin was definitely my favorite. In the second book, I had Egwene and Nynaeve. Not sure if I'm saying those names right. And then in this one, it was Matt. So, which was really surprising.
Sorry, I was just like, all these weird names and then Matt.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he must have got bored of writing like all these exquisite names. He's just like, here, let's just put Matt in there.
So that was kind of surprising because in the previous 2 books, he was kind of like a douche and messes everything up. And then suddenly in this book, he was kind of intelligent and resourceful and just cool. So that was surprising. But yeah, every book just really expands the world in this, and you see different cultures and different... there's a bunch of different magic systems and a lot to each magic system. So I will say where I have an issue with this, and I think most people is how descriptive the author is. In the second book, it's really appreciated for some plot lines because there is so much to the world that when he describes things, it helps kind of remind you of who this person is or what this culture is. But he also describes clothing like in paragraphs, and it's just like unnecessary.
I haven't read Lord of the Rings, but I've heard from other people that there's like parts where they describe trees for like 2 pages. And I don't know, I don't think I'd be able to like stay interested if that was how the book was, so...
Yeah, so I could definitely see him doing that. I don't know if he's done that so far. Maybe I kind of glossed it over. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe skim read a little.
Yeah. So I do enjoy these books. They are like heavy though with description, and they always take longer, but they're very fun books to read. So 4 stars. So yeah, so the next book I chose, this is where I kind of went off script a little bit. So I tend to be a mood reader. So I think I did pretty good so far for reading all those, and this is where I went off script. So this is where I read The Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the 3rd book in his second era for Mistborn.
Oh, wait, I have to rate it, right?
Yeah.
This is the one I said was the top one. So I'm going to say 5 stars because my guess was that it was his favorite.
So I rated this 4.25 stars.
Oh, dang.
So yeah, so I can't really describe this too much because it is like the 6th book in the series. But it's set in a world where people are able to ingest metals and they do different things depending on the types of metals. And typically, the rare few that have this ability, they're only able to ingest 1 metal. And then the people who are able to ingest all the metals, they're called Mistborn. So yeah, so this is... This book is kind of like a bridge book, I feel like, to where the series is going to go not only in the next book, but in the next era. So they kind of introduced technology a little more in this, which I thought was really fun and creative. I will say it took about half of the book for me to get really into it. That's when they started to introduce that kind of storyline going on into it. But it really got me excited to see where they're going to go and where he's going to how he's going to mix the different, because there's a couple different magic systems in this as well, kind of mix those together. So that was a lot of fun. I also really liked some of the side characters in this. So you have Wax and Wayne, which are kind of the two main characters in this. And Wax is typically kind of boring. Wayne is one of my favorite characters. He's just funny and random and really has his own sense of logic to him. But then you also have, oh god.
Who's that character?
Steris.
Who's that character you're always telling me about that like pops in and out of like all the different books? Or is that a whole different series?
Well, he's in the Cosmere universe.
The Cosmere. See, yeah. I'm learning, guys. I'm learning. What's his name? Hoyd?
Hoyd, yeah.
Hoyd. So yeah. I'll keep my eyes out for Hoyd when I dive into the Cosmere. I feel like every time I say it, I have to just do this because it's such a vast world with all these books. So
it is. And you haven't read any.
I know. I really need to get my ass in gear and do that, but we all have huge TBRs, so we'll see what happens.
So yeah, so I liked, I'm probably going to say the names wrong, but Marasi and Steris, especially Steris, I thought her character was really well developed and she was kind of funny in this one. So I think she was actually, other than Wayne, she was my favorite character, just kind of seeing how she like navigates her life, because she's, I guess, kind of similar to me. Like, she's very analytical, and she likes having things planned out really well.
That's true. He hates when things are not planned.
And she even like plans for things to go wrong and has like other plans set up. So I just really liked her character and really thought she was fun in this one. And there's a lot of character development in this one too, which I thought was really good. So yeah, really excited for this one. It's one of my favorites as a Mistborn as a whole. Really excited to see where he's going to go with the world, especially with the technology and magic system kind of intertwining together. So really excited for this one.
Also, shout out to...
No, my babies!
Technical difficulties.
My children.
We'll be right back. And we're back. So, as I was saying, I just wanted to give a shout out to Sheldon and Bonnie. They're the ones that actually gave me their used books, and Sheldon gave us the Mistborn series, which is how Marcus ended up picking them up and enjoying those books. And he really liked Warbreaker. That was his favorite one. So thank you for giving us those books. Alright, so let's move on to the third last book. Yes, I know, guys, there's a lot of them. And that is Recursion by Blake Crouch, which I was very excited to see how he felt about this because I personally loved this book. And I'm going to say you gave it, because I gave it a 5-star, you probably gave it a 4-star, is my guess.
4 exactly? Or
4 exactly.
No, 2.5 or
nope.
0.75?
4 exactly.
Yeah, so I gave this 4 stars. So so it's set in a world where people have false memory syndrome. And what that is when people, like, suddenly one day, they suddenly have a second set of memories of a different life. So it could be, I don't know, 10 months, or it could be like 15 years. And they have these two memories going on at the same time, and it kind of confuses them. And nobody really knows why this happens, or why certain people get them, or what's causing it. So Barry's a detective in this world, and he kind of stumbles on a case where somebody has this, and he's trying to uncover what's causing it. It's also told from the perspective of Helena, who is a neuroscientist who's trying to build a machine to help people keep their memories. So people who have like Alzheimer's to remember their first kiss or their first love or anything like that. So their paths kind of cross. So yeah, so I liked this one more than Dark Matter. I also gave that one 4 stars though. Mm-hmm. I thought this one was more of a thriller, I guess, than the other one. And I also liked that the main characters like were intelligent. Like in Dark Matter, they told you and you knew he was intelligent, but he did a lot of dumb things or emotional things, I guess. And this one was kind of the opposite. Like the characters were really just trying to like make things right or figure things out or like do the right thing. even if it cost them something, which I thought made sense with the plot, like with these scientist type people or the detective type person. I just liked that. So it's kind of told in an interesting way. Like, it's not really told in chapters. It's told by the people's perspectives and by days. So that was really fun, just kind of seeing it that way. But yeah, I don't know. It's a thriller, right? So you can't really go too much in detail without spoiling things. But it's a sci-fi thriller that's just really fun.
It's awesome.
All right, coming to the end of the month now.
And this is one that he wasn't planning on reading, but I just kept saying, hey, you, read this. It's cute. So, Heartstopper!
Yeah, so, like he said, I had zero intention of reading this, but he just kept on begging me, basically, to read this over and over again.
It literally took like a half an hour to read.
Yeah, so I read this super quick. It's so quick that it's almost hard to give a rating. Because, you basically read this in one sitting, easily. Yeah. What do you think
I don't know. 3.5?
So I gave this 4 stars, I think. I don't know, 3.75, 4 stars.
Okay.
So it's not my typical read at all. No. Like, at all. But it was easy read, it was fun. I really like the art style in it. It's, I don't know.
It's told more with the art than like the actual like narrative speech part to it.
Yeah, and I read the back. I guess it's like a spin-off from like one of her novels.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, but then after I read it, I did some more research, and she has like actual novels about characters in this graphic novel.
Yeah, so it's set in a world where one of the main characters is openly gay. Which is kind of fun because typically when you read those books, like they're just coming out or trying to figure out who they are. So it's kind of fun to see someone who's already openly out. And then he meets a boy who likes girls, but maybe just doesn't just like girls. So it's kind of fun to see that perspective too as a character.
Yeah.
Who's kind of exploring it with somebody who's already fully out.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
And it's not like. Because, typically when you read these books, like, they're trying to hide it. And this one's, it's not really hiding it. It's just kind of like a fun exploration of who they really are, I guess. So
it's literally just a cute, fluffy read.
Yeah.
And there's not really, like, many negatives to it. Like, it's all focusing on the positives, which is what I like about it. Because it's just, like, they're focusing on who they are. And I also really enjoy that there is some bisexual rep in it because, like, I don't see that as much in books. Like, it's usually one or the other. Like, it's usually gay or lesbian, but I find that there's not as much bisexual rep out there, or I just haven't read many books with bisexual rep in it, so I do really like that aspect of the book.
Kind of hard to rate just because it was such a quick read, but I think 4 stars. I'll definitely be finishing the entire series.
Because I'm going to buy them, and then you can read them.
Yeah, I might just wait until all 5 are out and then just binge them in one afternoon, just because they're that quick. But, I really like this.
Yeah, I know I'm going to buy the rest of them, so... Alright, guys, we're at the last one. The final book. And it is A Limited Wish by Mark Lawrence. This is the one that I thought was the least favorite of his, and I was wrong. So I'm going to say this one is a 3.75.
So this one was a 3.5. So close.
I'm getting, so close every time.
Yeah, so I read this one because... So from the first one, I got, Blake Crouch-ish vibes, the way... The plot of his books. I still didn't like the first one as much as I liked Dark Matter or Recursion, but the plots I find are kind of similar, or... have those vibes. So this is the second book set in his, I think it's just called One Word Kill series. Not sure if there's a different title for the entire series. Yeah, so it's set in a world where Nick just likes to hang out with his friends and they play D&D together. And then in the first book, some weird things just kind of start happening to him. So what I like about... So I guess these are kind of sci-fi thrillers as well, so you really shouldn't know too much going into it. So what I like about this world is that he kind of mirrors like what goes on in their D&D campaign with what's going on the outside. Like in the first one word kill is a spell that happens, and he kind of learns like a life lesson as well as what goes on in the world, and same thing with this one. So I really think that's fun, and kind of creative with how he does that, because he does it so well with meshing like the two stories kind of together. I will say though that the first one I did enjoy more because it had like that thriller vibe to it, whereas this one they tried to do it but not as successfully. Also, the plot wasn't as exciting in this one as in the first one. I like with this one, this series, I guess, though, is his friends are kind of important to the storyline as well. They're all different. They're all kind of fleshed out a little bit better than some other stories. Like they all have their own personality, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that's all I really have to say for this. It was average. His friends are fun. Not as thrillery as I would have liked. And the sci-fi element was a little weird in this one. But yeah, still fun read. It's only 200 pages, so I mean, you read it really quickly. And so I just have the last one to read, so yeah.
Those were all the books that Marcus read. That was a huge stack of books, and I feel like he enjoyed most of them for the most part, which was nice because I chose a lot of them, so I feel good about that. You guys let us know if you want us to do another month where we do Boyfriends Chooses Each Other's TBR. And I want to know if you guys want to see Marcus back again. He's like, I don't want to do this again.
I think once is enough. I'm sweating. I'm uncomfortable.
But I enjoyed it, and I think it was a lot of fun. And yeah. Alright guys, that's it for this video. You know the drill. I post videos every Monday and Thursday. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you will know right away when I post a video. If you want to support me, I have a Patreon and a Ko-fi page down in the description, which you can go check out. And until next time, keep on reading.